I'm so happy to have with me today Scott Carlin, someone who he doesn't know, but I have followed for quite some time. I love his work and I love the direction you go in, especially after you got your master's degree in psychology in Santa Monica, at the University of Santa Monica.
Yes.
Is that what?
Yes.
Yes, a master's degree
in spiritual psychology.
In spiritual psychology,
yes.
Thank you, in spiritual psychology. That must have really changed your view, your landscape of the world in terms of films you make, in terms of whatever you do.
It just, you know, got me more in touch with stuff that was already kind of inside me and just illuminated it a little more. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, taught me how to listen to my intuition and follow my instinct and, you know, recognize things that were showing up in my life that maybe this means something. Mm-hmm. And it just became very clear during the course of that time, because I was still working at HBO full-time during the two-year program. People, projects were showing up throughout the entire time I was doing the master's program that I didn't really have any mechanism to do much about, given my full-time responsibilities and what I was doing on a day-to-day basis at HBO. And I started, you know, slowly kind of cataloging some of these things in my head, and ultimately, you know, on paper, the people and possibilities that were showing up, and just realized that's really where my heart was. You know, my business, my career was, you know, going down one path, but my heart was very much attuned to doing some other things, and I just recognized that, you know, probably the platform to me to recognize and do something about those was not inside a traditional legacy media company. It was probably outside of that company. So timing and events conspired to make it a very natural separation from HBO to begin doing my own thing and just following people and projects that I was passionate about, with, you know, little attachment to outcome, and just saying, you know, whatever happens will be for the highest good, and let's see where it goes.
Boy, that's the hardest lesson in the world, isn't it? To have no attachment to the outcome.
Well, particularly when you're trained in business and you're like, you know, to get from point A to point B, you have to do this, and once you get to point B, you have to get to point C, and it's all very process oriented and all very results oriented, and that's the way business, you know, most business is structured. So, you know, backing away from some of that, detaching from the ego of like, well, this is what I plan to have happen. And if it doesn't happen that way, not judging myself and saying, well, you don't know what this is going to lead to. The fact that it didn't happen the way you anticipated might open up the possibility for something greater than you ever imagined. And I find more often than not, that tends to be the case.
It makes me so happy to hear that you lead with your heart, because I say this without judgment, but more as an observation. But in Hollywood and the world of entertainment, some people never get to that point of following their heart.
Very true.
And
not only in Hollywood, but you know,
everywhere.
And pick your business, pick your industry. It's one of the reasons we started this 501c6 organization a couple of years ago called GATE, the Global Alliance for Transformational Entertainment, which was the idea of a guy named John Rotz, who's been in the body, mind, spirit space for 25 some odd years, and has been a publicist and has been very involved with films like Baraka and What the Bleep, and, you know, some of the, you know, really kind of cutting edge new thought movies. And we put together this group as kind of a clarion call to Hollywood for people who did have the impulse, did have the instinct, the motivation to be engaged in more projects that were heart-centered, that did have something maybe to say and contribute to the world, and weren't just feeding raw meat into the beast of Hollywood continuously. And, you know, we've 2 years hence, we just had our second annual event with 2,000 some odd people who showed up at 9 o'clock in the morning and stayed till 2 o'clock in the morning when Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle held stage, and there wasn't an empty seat in the house. And, you know, people like Gene Houston and Barbara Marx Hubbard and Don Miguel Ruiz spoke, and it was really, it's an opportunity we see to kind of catalyze people in Hollywood who do have the impulse and the instinct, whether they're on the talent side, the creative side, the business side, to find ways to collaborate and connect, to come together, to shift the paradigm of how content, what kind of content gets created in Hollywood.
And I think that we have a whole new wave. When you mentioned Don Miguel Ruiz, I love him. I took the whole course in the 4 Agreements. I was one of his apprentices, so you see how it's a steep diam in it. But what I more mean to say than speak of myself is that there's a whole new wave of people interested in what you're doing and what you're talking about, and that creates a whole new set of films that creates a whole new concept in terms of what people are watching, like Decoding Deepak. I've been tweeting with Deepak saying, I'm here, I'm about to go interview Scott Carlin. He writes back, how many people are going to come? Do you think there'll be a good turnout? Little does he know, it's sold out.
Right.
It's sold out.
That's great.
So what was behind Decoding Deepak? I mean, I know Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
I know it is his journey, but how do you put it into your words, since you were so instrumental?
Well, I've known Deepak longer than I knew Gotham, and I just have such love and admiration for Deepak on so many levels, and came to know Gotham. We all kind of lived very much in the same neighborhood, and ended up a lot of the same events together. And at one point, Gotham mentioned to me, I'm considering doing a film about my dad. In fact, I've shot some stuff. Do you want to take a look at it? And I saw some of the video he had shot, and we talked about what his approach to the film, what the rationale for the film would be, and I thought this could be very, very interesting, because as much of a media legacy as Deepak has, 65 books, 100 plus videos, DVDs, CDs, what have you, out there, there's never been a long-form piece truly about Deepak
and what he does.
And what he does and who he is. And who better to tell that than somebody who's known Deepak all his life, Gotham. And Deepak agreed to do it. And it turned out as extraordinary as I hoped it would be. I mean, just an incredibly honest human film. And Deepak likes to say, people have come up to him and said, gee, Deepak, I hear Gotham made a film about you. And he goes, well, not really. He made a film about himself. And in many ways, that was a process for Gotham to kind of get in touch with him, his own kind of inner state, as it reflected by his experiences being the son of Deepak Chopra. And it was a very, I think, enlightening experience for both of them to spend this kind of concentrated time together, albeit under the guise of doing a movie and having a camera rolling all the time. But it was, as Deepak said, it wasn't, and it didn't expose me, it revealed me in very human ways. And I think that was, if anybody takes anything away from this film, it's just ultimately how human Deepak is.
Yes, it does. I love the point in the film where Deepak says at one point, after all these years of teaching us in books and lectures and CDs and traveling all over the world and doing ceremonies, at one point he looks straight at the camera and says, I have no idea who I am.
Yeah, it's a film about, it's a film about identity, and it's a film, as he says, about, the paradox and ambiguity and contradiction we all have in our lives, and even somebody like Deepak, who people think has all the answers.
Yes.
Really, Deepak doesn't have all the anything. He has more questions than he has answers, and he's much less about the answers than he is about asking interesting questions and connecting with people in the pursuit of answers.
And before I let you go, what did you come away with?
I came away with the comfort of ambiguity, of just knowing that, there is, no one's perfect, no one has all the, all the answers, and we are, a bouillabaisse of a lot of human beings, have a lot of different things going on, and the film, I think, was very much a reflection of our own process. And what I think what people come away from is recognizing that what they have seen from Deepak many times is what they wanted to see. And this film, I think, reveals in a way really who he is. People may still see him the way they want, but this adds a dimension to the perception people had of this person who's such a public person who has so many ways for people to connect in touch with him. It added, I think, a new dimension for people to kind of look at him and ultimately look at themselves. Yeah.
Scott Carlin, one of my personal heroes. You are here in Sun Valley, Idaho, and thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you, Chantal. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for your heart.
I enjoyed being with you. Thank you.